Hi, this is part two of Caitlin Johnston's Disrupt the Culture Wars. I was just going to do it in one part, but I got worried that the volume technical fault. I don't think there was much of one. No, there wasn't one at all actually. But so this is now the second part. So in the first part we'd explained pretty much the gist of it anyway, which says the partisan divide, state superstructure, all for their benefit. Anyway, watch part one and you'll know. So you before you watch part two, obviously watch part one. So anyway, Caitlin writes, draw attention to the fact that marginalised groups are being used and abused by mainstream narrative managers to keep the public from turning their gaze on the abuses of their rulers. Draw attention to the way rightist narrative managers seize onto that to direct their herd away from issues that can inconvenience the powerful and towards exclusive focus on the culture war. Stop letting people get sucked up into the performance and instead draw attention to what's really going on here. Act like a loud jerk at a movie theatre who keeps yelling, "None of this is real." Those are actors in the movie set. Those are actors on a movie set. Can you imagine how hard it would be to get lost in the narrative of a movie if somebody was constantly doing that to you? After a while, you'd stop seeing Oppenheimer and you'd only be able to see Cillian Murphy. Basically, all you're trying to do is take all the emotional heat that's been diverted into partisan feuding over issues whose outcomes will never inconvenience power in the slightest, and steer that emotional heat towards the people who are directing all this. The directors of The Matrix. See part one. This is both easy to do and completely honest, because how effed up is it that they're doing this? How effed up is it that the most influential voices in our society, on both sides of the mainstream partisan divide, are facilitating the abuse of marginalised groups in order to protect the powerful? Yeah, again, remember it's artificial divide. It's the terminology, left, right, Labour, Democrat, Republican, Conservative, etc. All that crap is there to have an artificial divide so they can herd you into this cage, them into that cage, and they can use and abuse it and put in issues that will provoke and divide all that, giving a feeling of free speech when it's just enslaved speech and it's conflict speech to protect themselves at the top, because they'll never bring in issues that harm them and let these debate this stuff. The plebs debate this stuff. And, they won't ever bring in stuff to harm themselves. I mean, for example, say a country that the US empire doesn't like commits a war crime, and we all go on how bad it is. Maybe we should even harm them. We should maybe kill their people and stuff like that. Now imagine America commits a war crime and they're committed more than anyone else. We don't say, rightly don't say we should hurt Americans. Rightly say that, of course. But what I'm saying is that is the correct way to act. But if it's the American empire, of course, and it's another nation that's done that, then we say we should maybe kill their people. We should maybe harm more people. But when it's the American empire that does the mistake, the war crime, worse than a mistake, and we just think, well, that would just be adding evil on evil, suffering on suffering, and that's correct. It would be. It's just, let's be consistent. Not just where we're born into, so we're meant to be on their side, not their side. That kind of thing doesn't get to truth. That stuff just bias. And every nation plays that game, unfortunately. Now, let's get back to this. Yeah, so Caitlin's going on about all the propaganda matrix, the partisan divide, narrative matrix is what she calls it, and poisoning and dividing people against each other so that they don't harm the powerful. Real change doesn't come about. And she says that that's just about as loathsome a thing as you could possibly come up with. They're pitting human against human at the expense of society's most vulnerable members and watching them fight from on a high like Greek gods. Can you think of anything more vile? Well, maybe, but it is pretty vile. Draw attention to how disgusting what they're doing is. Draw attention to how deeply evil this behaviour is. Keep shouting in that movie theatre and drawing attention to what's really going on to highlight how profoundly depraved these monsters really are. Draw people's attention to this dynamic wherever you see it. When right-wing populists babble about LGBTQ conspiracies and shriek about wokeness, mock them for the ridiculous sheep they are for playing into a dynamic that directly serves the elite power structures they claim to oppose. When liberals ignore economic injustice, war, militarism, authoritarianism, corruption, capitalism, and ecocide to focus on culture war battles whose outcomes will never, in the slightest, inconvenience the powerful, highlight the disgusting way they themselves are feeding a dynamic that imperils the marginalised communities they claim to defend. People on both sides of the divide will object to this message. Of course they will. Always defensive for themselves, aren't they? The source of their objection is the exact programming I have just described. The truth hides just beneath that objection. On some level, you all know this is what's happening. Keep breaking the spell and drawing attention to what's really going on, and you can stomp out the abuse at its source. Fantastic paper. I like putting my own wording in there, but I didn't really say anything she isn't already saying. She's brilliant. She gets it 100%, and she's very smart. And it's just a shame that could you imagine if we all saw through the state superstructure to the extent I do? That would be a brilliant. To the extent she does, bloody hell, when she really, really is the top person I can think of, top thinker I can think of in terms of articulating, getting through to people. I mean, she gets through to thousands, hundreds of thousands. She's really good. She's the top person that I can see who critiques and analyzes and expresses and writes about and thinks about what I call the propaganda matrix, which was influenced by her, by the way, her narrative matrix. So I just changed one word, sorry now. But brilliant. That's all I've got to say. End of video.